Welcome to the Connected Growth Coaching Podcast, where we support women to rediscover who they are so they can thrive in all parts of their lives. Your hosts, Jen Heilman and Amanda Kingsley, share with you unique life coaching resources centered around the power of the mind and the ancient practice of feng shui. All right, here we are. Hi. Talking about self-discovery today.
Oh, it's so good. I love this subject.
So self-discovery for me is it's personal growth. So some people will call it personal development. It's like expansion and willingness to show up and do what Jen and I talk about all the time.
Right.
See yourself, accept who you are as is, choose to love that person, and then also grow and expand and become I'm using quotes here, better person. Right? And by better, I just mean more intentional, more purposeful, more of service, right? Like just showing up and going after your life and being a part of humanity in a way that's powerful.
Right.
So, that would be my take on self-discovery. And do you have anything to add to that?
Well, just the self-cultivation and the constant, awareness around growing and challenging yourself and, becoming the next phase of who you are, right?
Yeah.
And not stagnating or not feeling stuck. I think a lot of the people that we have in our programs, that's one of the main things is that they feel stuck and they want that forward momentum in their lives. They're exhausted by the stuckness and but they're not sure how to move forward, what steps to take, right? Yeah. And so I think that's a lot of what we open up for them.
And I think I would say as a humanity, the stage we're at in our evolution is that we as a species are ready to grow and evolve on a much more spiritual level than we ever have versus a survival level. But not everybody's ready for that. There are people who their joy and contentment is going to work, coming home, watching TV, waking up and doing the same thing the next day, and that's okay. And that's just not who we speak to. Yeah. But
I also feel a lot of those people are lost, right? Because they're on the hamster wheel.
I think many are, but I think also some are not.
Yeah.
I think as a whole, as a species, we are being called to rise, but that there's exceptions.
Absolutely.
And so some people really are happy. I can think of a few specific examples that I'm not going to call out on the podcast.
Right. Of
but
course.
I look at those people and I just think energetically, they are in alignment, just doing the thing.
Right.
But
they like what they're doing. But that is the difference, right?
Yeah,
they like what they're doing.
Exactly.
Right? Because you can't not like what you're doing and feel in
But they're
alignment.
really, in my mind, they're just on a hamster wheel. But in their mind, they're just happy.
Yeah, right.
So, Anyway, it was a little tangent. But I think, in general, Jen and I both believe that the most important investment you can make is in yourself, in your mind, in your spirit, in who you are.
Right. And it's not selfish, right?
No.
I think there's this big underlying issue for most people, particularly women, that think that when we approach this self-development, this self-growth scenario, that it's selfish, that they're taking time away from their families, they're delving down this path that doesn't involve the other people in their lives. And it's actually it's the biggest gift you can give the people around you, your loved ones, your family, your coworkers, being in that expanded in growth state and feeling energized and empowering. You are taking people with you on that journey and opening up
You hear my kid in the other room? cackling at the TV. Podcast listeners probably can't hear it, but Jen and I are like looking at each other.
Oh my God. It was like Woody Woodpecker.
This is life as
Real
an
life.
entrepreneur and a mother. Wednesday is not our preschool day. Oh. Sorry, we just looked at each other like too funny. That was hilarious. Yes, absolutely. Like that investment is a gift to the people around you, even though it may not feel that way at times.
Because you're leading by example, right?
Exactly.
And you're instead of pulling people along with you, you're just leading by example, and then they start to rise up with you. Yeah.
So you'd think that the easiest person to get to know would be yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You think like,
funny.
oh, well, I'm with myself all the time. I've been with myself since I was born. I should know myself better than anybody, but I would say most of us don't.
Absolutely.
Most people know their children and their partners and their best friends better than they know themselves. And it takes commitment and forgiveness and awareness and courage to really get to know yourself and to choose growth. And I love, it's trickling down just in the last few years. You can see in elementary school classrooms, in high school classrooms, in the clothing that our kids are wearing, that there is this growth mindset happening. That it's becoming more mainstream to even just the kids' shirts will say things like, I can't give you an example, but my girls have some awesome t-shirts that just speak to them being beautiful and perfect and strong as who they are. And those t-shirts did not exist when I was a kid.
No, they did not.
So it is trickling down, and I love that. But I think when you choose to step in and discover who you are, it blows you away. And the crazy Amanda analogy I would give is it's like all of you can listen to I often listen to podcasts when I'm driving. So then you have to take that extra step to go home and actually do the work, especially with our podcast, because our podcast is very action oriented. But when you show up and do the work, it just explodes out of you in this really different way than when you're thinking about it. So in terms of journaling, it reminds me of when I sit down to write a birthday card to my best friend or my mother, or and the words just come out in a really different way. The way I feel about them, just I don't know, it explodes out of my hand. It just flows out in a way that I don't speak to them. I don't speak that, but when I write it, everything that comes out is coming straight from my heart. And I've taken that 3 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes to think about how I feel about them and then write it, right?
Did you know that your heart is energetically connected to your hand? It's the actual manifestation of your hand. Wow. I mean, we can get woo-woo on this, but that is an actual, energetically, that is the manifestation.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happens when you choose to sit down and write the journal prompts, when you choose to listen to a YouTube video or a podcast or read a book and then actually write about it. Actually get your hands in there and do some feng shui in your house. It comes out in such a different way than it does when you're just thinking about it.
Yeah. The physicalness. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Takes that self-discovery to a whole new level. So I guess then that brings us to the journal prompts. So my journal prompts for you today would be, just take a look at who you spend your time with. Are the people you spend most of your time with encouraging you to grow, or are they keeping you stuck, right? Are they interested in growth and expansion and rising and sort of just coming into this place that you're drawn to? Or are they on the hamster wheel and A, don't want to get out, or B, aren't willing to do the work to get out? And just notice it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make any judgments. Their way is not right or wrong. But just notice, who are you spending your time with? And it can be really enlightening to be like, whoa, I'm spending my time with a lot of negative people who just circle in complaint and gossip and frustration and stress and anxiety and drama. No wonder I'm struggling to get out. And so the answer is not to cut all those people out of your life. Those are probably people you love. The answer may, in some cases, be that, but the answer is to just create another community. Find other people who are on the track you want to be on. Start spending more time with those people and let the other relationships evolve as they're meant to.
Right. Even if that means, like, if you don't find those people physically in your community, you can find them online.
Yeah, I think more often than not, people are finding that online, and that is a gift of social media.
It is, yeah.
We are in a really small town area, and that was the most exciting thing to me, becoming an online entrepreneur. I was like, holy moly, like there's people all over the world who think the way I do, and now I can become friends with them. Now I can connect with them, and that's been so powerful.
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing.
This global consciousness.
Because to rise, for humanity to take this next step in our evolution, we got to do it together. Like, we've got to find our people and rise together. So the next thing would be to just notice, what are you reading, watching, and listening to? Like, is it inspiring you, or is it just reminding you how terrible the world is and how awful, and how scary, and is it fear driven? And what are you reading every day? What are you waking up and turning on? What are you falling asleep to? Is it in alignment with who you want to be, how you want to see the world? And again, just start by noticing it and then decide. And so the last thing I would encourage you to do is just choose, like, what can you do today, or, to open the pathway to self-discovery just a little bit more. And please, nobody go out and make massive changes to their life as you start listening to any of this stuff. Because I remember when I started opening to this whole world, it's interesting because the book I pulled off my shelf today was The New Earth, which I haven't opened in 8-9 years, when I first started being introduced to all this. By Eckhart Tolle. And I'm the kind of person who's all or none. Jen knows this about me so well. So I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm going to drop everything and dive into this. And that's not the healthiest way to do it. So take it just a little bit at a time. Like, what can you do today that will just open that pathway to self-discovery a little bit more?
What are you curious about? Right? Yeah. Notice what you're
what
curious
feels good
for
to
you.
try.
Yeah. For you, that was the book, right? You got curious about the book, and then it's like, oh, maybe this is I can reread this because I've evolved as a human and growth. And so how is this going to speak to me differently now?
Yeah. The first time I opened that book, my mind was just blown. I never thought about life the way that book showed me how to think about life. And I was like, all right, that's it. I'm all in. And I was kind of a crazy person telling everyone to read the book for a little while. And then that didn't obviously work. So I settled down and then came back to this path of self-discovery and personal growth in a different way. But yeah, I don't recommend diving in head first and just completely changing your life. Just let it calm, let it grow, let it unfold. All right, let's take a quick break and talk about feng shui.
Okay.
Let's face it, no two lives are the same, and there are no one-size-fits-all tips and tricks. We love connecting with you on the podcast, but remember that if you want game-changing results, one-on-one coaching is where it's at. You can access our programs at connectedgrowthcoaching.com, and we will walk you through the unique circumstances that arise in your life and your home.
Okay, we're back for some feng shui tips. So I love that Amanda was mentioning, getting, at the journal prompts, getting your hand in motion, and that kind of physicality and what that can bring to your awareness. And feng shui is very much that as well. It allows you to see your life in a very physical way and to see how things are manifesting physically within your space. So there's a lot of truth and honesty in your space, and it's hard to hide from it. So
I'm laughing because I know Jen's going to talk about knowledge and self-cultivation, which is exactly where my 4-year-old is pushing all my buttons right now.
Yes, you hear him behind the door.
He's literally in the room pushing my buttons. I'm like, there's my place that I need to work on self-cultivation.
Right. So we are going to be talking about the knowledge and self-cultivation area. And this area is supposed to be a place of stillness and meditation.
You mean it's not supposed to be where the TV is?
Or covered in Legos or, all that kind of stuff. I love the connection that you made about what are you watching? What are you basically subjecting yourself to daily? Because that's, energetically that is huge. I know that for myself, I get really sucked into movies and, books and all that kind of stuff. And so if it's not bringing me up energetically, then I have to be really careful about what it is because it stays with me. If it's a really powerful thing, it stays with me for days.
I was just remembering that I watched Breaking Bad when I was on a 14-week bed rest, binge watched it. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've seen parts of it.
But I'm pregnant with my 3rd child and binge watching Weeds and Breaking Bad. I'm like, what? Just that intense. Is not what I would choose now if I were pregnant.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Yeah. So anyways, when you find your knowledge and self-cultivation area, this area is really supposed to be quiet and still so that you can access your intuitive thoughts and you can connect, to that higher power that's going to guide you, and to help you be on the flow. So you're not in force mode, you're in flow mode. And for me, it's my kitchen. So that is the hub of our household, which it is for most people. And so that's where the papers pile up. That's where, school papers and notices and bills and all that kind of stuff and dirty dishes. So it can be, a source of agitation. And so I really thrive to, or strive so that I can thrive. I strive to keep that kitchen fairly clean and clear. And that really helps me. And so, for you, Amanda, just doing daily pickups, it doesn't mean that you have to have the TV out of there, but just
and we have a beautiful blue scarf I got traveling in China, and I put that over the TV anytime it's off, just turn that energy off.
Right. Completely. Right. Yeah. You're not even drawn to it when it's covered up. You're not even looking to the TV, because if there is a blank screen, your eye just goes to it. It's such a habit. Your eye just goes to it. So covering it up with something different is really super helpful. So clearing that space out of magazines and newspapers and anything that's kind of piling up about things that aren't helpful energetically for you to be aligned and in touch with who you are when you're in this phase of rediscovering who you are as a person and at your core. So the area really resonates with the color blue. Nice. A really beautiful, not aqua, but a lighter, that kind of royally blue. But you can pick any blue that resonates with you. I'm not going to tell you.
Any blue is better than red.
Exactly. So it's like that calming, soothing blue. For me, it's like a midnight blue, because that's my favorite time of day is at dusk, when the sky turns to that like gorgeous deep blue. And that is so relaxing for me to have that color, because it reminds me of that time of day. And it's also a time where I go outside and I sit and I connect, with the universe and the stars and the beauty of this world. So bringing in elements that help you connect to that feeling of calm and connection, so that you can be in that state of flow. Any kind of symbolic, artwork that helps you connect to that.
I always thought, and I might be wrong, because you're the ninja, I always thought that was like a good space for like landscapes and like majestic, like mountain ranges. Am I making that up?
Well, it's the area. In some practices, it's the mountain, right? So it's like you sitting on the mountain and like being in that elevated state, having that huge mass underneath you, that grounding mass underneath you. So it's like that heaven and earth connection, right? So you're closer to heaven, but you're also supported by this massive mountain underneath you.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that's the mountain area. In some practices, there's, a lake area and, all the other things, right? Yeah. So there's just so many layers to feng shui, but yeah, so that is a great thing. If mountains, like if you go for hikes and you feel like so connected when you're on that hike and you get to the top and it's just like, then yeah, absolutely. Okay. That is the symbolism that you want to bring in. So for sure, bringing in photographs of mountains or artworks that has mountains in it. But anything that helps you connect to your core self and your ability to grow, and it's knowledge and self-cultivation. So it's really,
so the knowledge part is like who I am.
Yep.
And then the self-cultivation part is like who I'm becoming, who I'm blooming into, who I'm evolving to.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's who you are currently, and, going through the steps of accepting and loving that person. And then, who do I want to become? Right.
Yeah.
And growing from there. Yeah.
I think I always mix up the words on that one, and I always think it's self-knowledge and cultivation. I wonder why it totally works, but I wonder why that language always it comes to me before knowledge and self-cultivation. I always think self-knowledge and
well, I've used that terminology too, because I think that if ideally I would call it the self-knowledge area, right? Because you're just developing. Any knowledge that you obtain builds you and helps you grow. If you know more about how to invest your money, then you're growing your finances, like all of these things. If you know more about like relationships, then you have that knowledge to help you, expand your relationship in a really beautiful way. Parenting, mothering, all that kind of stuff. So any kind of knowledge that you soak in is going to help you expand and grow.
Yeah, I noticed personally that this is, and you'll find this as we talk more about feng shui, but this is a area that I resist.
Most people do.
My living room is in this area, but then also my front porch, part of my front porch, and that's where like the gear clutter builds, the shoe clutter, the there's like softball mess from last spring in there. And so that's been on my to-do list for like months now, like get all that gear cleaned up, and I resist it. It's just like, that's not because I don't want to do the work. It would take me 10 minutes. It's like, I know that that's connected to me. And I'm like, I'm resisting doing that work for me.
It's a heavy area of resistance for most people, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's also like in feng shui, like balanced by the love area. And when we think of the love area in terms of self-love, it's another place that there's a resistance to. So
Right, exactly.
so interesting. We have so
Yeah.
much to keep learning and talking about and sharing with you all. So until
good.
next time.
Until next time.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Amanda.
As always, thanks for listening. If you learned something today that can help the people in your circle, please help us get the word out by sharing. When you leave us a rating and review on iTunes, it not only warms our hearts, but it helps people find us. We are eternally grateful for your support, and we're looking forward to connecting with you next week. Until then, you can find the show notes at www.connectedgrowthcoaching.com. You can grab your journal and then get your shui on.